The coffee cup shattered against the marble floor of the executive boardroom. Khloe Parker froze, her hand still extended, watching dark liquid spread across pristine white stone like blood at a crime scene. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her. 20 executives in $1,000 suits. And at the head of the table, James Glover didn't even blink. "I'm so sorry she started, already kneeling to gather the pieces. "Leave it." His voice cut through the room like a blade. Cold, precise, final. Khloe straightened slowly, her face burning. She was supposed to be invisible in these meetings. Marketing assistants didn't speak. They certainly didn't spill coffee 3 feet from the CEO's Italian leather shoes. "Thompson," James continued as if she'd already ceased to exist. "The quarterly projections are unacceptable. I don't pay you to make excuses." The man beside him, Daniel Thompson, VP of Sales, turned pale. "Sir, the market conditions are irrelevant. Find a solution or find another company." Khloe backed toward the door, pulse hammering. She'd worked at Glover Industries for 8 months without ever being in the same room as James Glover. The man was a legend, a monster, a self-made billionaire who'd built an empire before 35, known for brilliant strategy and absolutely zero mercy. Her hand found the door handle. "Miss Parker." She stopped breathing. "Yes, sir?" She turned, finding those steel-gray eyes fixed on her for the first time. They were colder than she'd imagined, calculating, like he was already determining her worth and finding her lacking. "Clean up your mess before you go." Heat flooded her cheeks. Around the table, executives shifted uncomfortably. One didn't humiliate junior staff in board meetings. But James Glover didn't follow anyone's rules. Of course. Khloe grabbed paper towels from the sidebar, ignoring the tremor in her hands. She knelt again, wiping up coffee while 20 powerful people watched her degradation. When she finally escaped, her supervisor Margaret was waiting in the hallway. "Are you insane?" Margaret hissed, dragging her toward the elevators. "Do you know what you just did? It was an accident. With James Glover, there are no accidents. There are only mistakes and consequences." Margaret jabbed the down button. "Go home. I'll handle the damage control." But Khloe couldn't go home. Not when her team's presentation to the senior marketing director was in 2 hours. The campaign she'd spent 3 months developing. Her chance to prove she deserved to be here. She headed to her cubicle on the 15th floor, trying to ignore the stares. News traveled fast. By now, everyone knew the new girl had embarrassed herself in front of the CEO. "Rough morning." Her cubicle mate, Tyler, offered a sympathetic smile. "You could say that." Khloe pulled up her presentation files, forcing herself to focus. The Luxe Cosmetics campaign. Bold. Innovative. Exactly what Glover Industries needed to capture the younger demographic. Her phone buzzed. "Margaret, conference room B." Now, Khloe's stomach dropped. The presentation wasn't for 2 more hours. She found Margaret pacing in the small conference room, face tight with barely controlled fury. "They're killing it," Margaret said without preamble. "The Luxe campaign. Peterson says it's too risky, too expensive, not aligned with company values." "But that's insane. The market research supports every element. The ROI projections don't matter. Peterson's decided, and what Peterson decides happens." Margaret's expression softened slightly.
"I'm sorry, Khloe."
"I know how hard you worked. 3 months. Countless late nights. Every ounce of creativity she possessed, poured into a campaign that would never see daylight because some middle-aged executive was too scared to take a calculated risk." "This is because of this morning," Khloe said slowly. "Because I embarrassed myself in front of Glover." Margaret didn't deny it. "In this company, perception is everything. And right now, your perception is damaged." Something hot and reckless ignited in Khloe's chest.
"No."
"Excuse me?"
"No."
"I'm not letting them kill this campaign because Peterson wants to play it safe." Khloe grabbed her tablet, pulling up the presentation. "The numbers don't lie. This campaign would increase market share by 15% in the first quarter alone." "Khloe, don't do anything stupid." But she was already walking. Not to Peterson's office. Not to her supervisor's boss. To the 29th floor. Executive territory. The elevator ride felt like ascending to another world. Everything was sleeker here. Quieter. The air itself seemed expensive. Khloe's clearance badge barely worked on the scanner, taking 3 tries before granting access. The receptionist, an elegant woman who probably earned more than Khloe's annual salary, looked up with practiced politeness that froze when she saw Khloe's employee badge. "I'm sorry. This floor is restricted to. I need to see Mr. Glover." The politeness vanished. "That's impossible. Mr. Glover doesn't take unscheduled meetings. Especially not from—" Her eyes flicked to Khloe's badge. "Marketing assistance. It's about the Lux campaign. 5 minutes. That's all I need. I'm calling security. Tell him," Khloe pressed, desperation making her bold, "that I have a solution to his quarterly projection problem." The receptionist's hand paused over the phone. "What?" "This morning. He told Thompson the quarterly projections were unacceptable. I have numbers that could change that." She didn't. Not really. But the Lux campaign could contribute to those numbers if anyone would listen. The receptionist studied her for a long moment, then picked up the phone. "Mr. Glover? I apologize for the interruption, but there's a situation." 30 seconds of silence. Then, "Send her in." The office was exactly what Khloe expected and nothing like it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her car. But there were details that surprised her. A chess set mid-game on the side table. Books, actual physical books, lining one wall. A photograph face down on the desk. James Glover stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care what the board prefers, Richard. Make it happen or I'll find someone who will." He ended the call without waiting for a response, turning to face her. Up close, he was overwhelming. Tall, probably 6'2", with the kind of presence that seemed to compress the air in the room. Dark hair, sharp jaw, and those eyes. Gray as winter steel and twice as cold. "You have 3 minutes, he said. "Use them wisely." Khloe's carefully prepared speech evaporated. "The Lux campaign. Peterson killed it this morning. But he's wrong. Peterson kills a dozen campaigns a month. Why should I care about this one? Because this one would work." She pulled up her tablet, hands steadier than she felt. "Your quarterly projections show a 2% decline in the 18 to 34 demographic. Lux targets exactly that market. Conservative estimates show a 15% increase in market share within 3 months. Aggressive estimates put it at 23%. James moved closer, studying the screen. He smelled like expensive cologne and something else. Something that made her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with fear. "Peterson cited budget concerns," he said. "Peterson's scared. The campaign is bold. It repositions Glover Industries as innovative instead of traditional. That terrifies executives who've built careers on playing it safe. And you think I should greenlight a project that terrifies my VP of marketing? I think you should greenlight a project that makes you money." The silence stretched. James's expression hadn't changed. Still that unreadable mask of cold assessment. Then he took the tablet from her hands, his fingers brushing hers for half a second. "The mock-ups are amateurish," he said, scrolling through. "The social media strategy is underdeveloped. And this influencer list is garbage. Half these people are past their prime." Each criticism hit like a physical blow. "I had limited resources. I don't accept excuses, Miss Parker. I accept results." He handed back the tablet. "But the core concept has merit. The targeting strategy is solid. And you're right about Peterson being scared." Hope flared in her chest. "So you'll approve it?"
No.
The hope died. "But you just said." "I said it has merit. I didn't say it was good enough." He moved to his desk, that predatory grace making her think of sharks circling prey. "You have potential. But potential without execution is worthless. This campaign, as it stands, would cost me $3 million and maybe gain half that in the first quarter. That's not business." That's charity. Then let me fix it, Khloe heard herself say. Give me 2 weeks. I'll refine the mock-ups, strengthen the social strategy, rebuild the influencer list. I'll make it good enough. You're a marketing assistant. You fetch coffee and compile reports. You don't develop million-dollar campaigns. The dismissal in his tone ignited something reckless in her. I also apparently don't know my place. I've already proven that this morning. His eyes narrowed. Careful, Miss Parker. Why? You've already decided I'm not worth your time. What do I have to lose? She stepped closer, propelled by 3 months of frustration and 8 months of being invisible. You want to know why this campaign matters? Because Glover Industries is bleeding young consumers. Your brand is synonymous with quality, but it's also synonymous with old. Safe. Your parents' company. And every quarter that perception strengthens, you lose ground to competitors who aren't afraid to evolve. You're lecturing me about my own company? I'm telling you what you already know. What your quarterly reports are screaming. You need innovation. You need risk. And you need someone who understands the demographic you're trying to reach. She held his gaze, refusing to back down even as her heart tried to beat out of her chest. Someone like me. For the first time, something flickered in those cold eyes. Not warmth. Something darker. More dangerous. You have nerve, he said softly. I'll give you that. I have more than nerve. I have the solution to your problem. If you're not too proud to take it from a coffee-spilling marketing assistant. The air between them crackled with tension. Khloe realized she'd crossed a line. Maybe several lines. But she couldn't seem to stop. James moved around the desk, closing the distance until he stood less than 2 feet away. This close, she could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the small scar on his left cheekbone, the way his jaw tightened when he was angry. Do you know what happens to employees who speak to me like this? His voice was dangerously quiet. They get fired, Khloe whispered. They get destroyed. He leaned in slightly, and she caught that scent again, expensive, masculine, intoxicating. I don't just fire people, Miss Parker. I ensure they never work in this industry again. I erase them. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But she was also exhilarated in a way she didn't understand. Then do it, she challenged. Fire me. Destroy me. But you'll still have the same problem Monday morning. And you'll have lost the person who could have solved it. His hand came up, and for a wild second she thought he might touch her face. Instead, he gripped the edge of the desk beside her, effectively caging her in. 2 weeks, he said. You'll work directly with my office. Every mock-up, every strategy document, every decision crosses my desk. If I see potential, we continue. If I see mediocrity, you're done. Not just with this campaign, with this company. Understood. And Miss Parker? His eyes bored into hers. If you ever interrupt my schedule again without an appointment, there won't be a second chance. Are we clear? Crystal. He was so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. So close she could see the exact moment something shifted in his expression. When calculation became something else. Something that made her breath catch. You should go, he said, but he didn't move. Neither did she. Later, Khloe wouldn't be able to say who moved first. Maybe it was her, swaying forward half an inch. Maybe it was him, that iron control finally cracking. All she knew was that suddenly his mouth was on hers. Not gentle. Not tentative. Hard and demanding and completely consuming. His hand left the desk to fist in her hair, angling her head exactly where he wanted it. She gasped against his lips and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until she couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't remember why this was the worst possible idea. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer instead of pushing away. He made a sound, almost a growl, and backed her against the desk, his other hand gripping her hip hard enough to leave marks. It was furious, desperate, like they were fighting even as they devoured each other. Then he pulled back abruptly, releasing her so suddenly she stumbled. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. His hair was mussed where her fingers had tangled in it. His lips were slightly swollen. And his eyes, God, his eyes were no longer cold. They were molten. "Get out," he said, voice rough. Khloe grabbed her tablet with shaking hands and ran. She made it to the elevator before her knees gave out. Made it to the ground floor before the full weight of what just happened crashed over her. She'd kissed James Glover. No, he'd kissed her. They'd kissed each other. In his office. Where anyone could have walked in. Where there were probably security cameras. "Oh God," she whispered, leaning against the building's exterior wall. "Oh God, oh God, oh God." Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number. My driver will pick you up at your apartment tomorrow morning at 8. Bring everything you have on the Lux campaign. JG." She stared at the message. He was actually going through with it. Giving her the 2 weeks. After that, another message. "What happened in my office doesn't happen again. Ever. This is a professional arrangement. Nothing more, right? Professional." Except her lips were still tingling. Her entire body was still vibrating from a kiss that had lasted maybe 30 seconds but felt like it had rearranged her molecular structure. This was insane. She should quit. She should run as far from James Glover and his dangerous mouth and his overwhelming presence as possible. Instead, she texted back. "Understood. 8 a.m. His response was immediate. "Don't be late." Khloe laughed, slightly hysterical. Late. As if she'd be able to sleep tonight. As if she'd be able to think about anything except the way he'd looked at her right before he kissed her. Like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. A weakness he couldn't afford. She took the subway home to her tiny studio apartment, still in a daze. Her roommate Christina was out. Thank God. Khloe wasn't ready to explain this to anyone. Wasn't sure she could explain it to herself. She pulled up the Lux campaign files, trying to see them through James Glover's critical eyes. He was right, the mock-ups were amateurish. She'd done them herself because the graphics team was overbooked. The influencer list was outdated. She'd compiled it 3 months ago and hadn't updated it. 2 weeks to make this perfect. 2 weeks working directly with a man who just kissed her like the world was ending. What had she done? Her phone rang. "Margaret. Tell me you didn't do what I think you did," Margaret said without preamble. "If you think I went to Glover's office and pitched the campaign, then yes. I did exactly what you think I did. Khloe. He gave me 2 weeks. I'm working directly with his office to refine it." Silence. Then, "He never does that. Never. Junior staff don't get FaceTime with James Glover. They don't get second chances." "I know. So what did you do? What did you say to convince him?" "Everything. Nothing. I kissed him. He kissed me. We crossed every possible line and now I'm supposed to work with him like it never happened." "I showed him the numbers," Khloe said instead. "And I didn't back down when he tried to intimidate me. That's either brilliant or suicidal. I'm not sure which. Neither am I." After Margaret hung up, Khloe tried to work. Tried to focus. But every time she closed her eyes, she felt his hand in her hair. Tasted him on her lips. Heard that rough sound he'd made right before he pulled away. This is a professional arrangement. Nothing more. Except it was already more. That kiss had been more. And they both knew it. At midnight, another message from the unknown number. "One more thing, Miss Parker. What happened today, the coffee, the interruption, everything. That showed remarkably poor judgment." Her heart sank. He was firing her after all. Then, but poor judgment backed by courage is more valuable than perfect judgment backed by fear. "Don't make me regret this." She stared at the message for a long time before typing. "You won't. We'll see." Khloe fell asleep with her phone in her hand and dreamed of steel-gray eyes and a mouth that had tasted like danger and dark promises. She woke at 6 to sunlight streaming through her window and the terrifying realization that in 2 hours, she'd be in a car with James Glover's driver, heading toward something that felt inevitable and impossible in equal measure. Her hands shook as she got dressed. Professional. She needed to look professional. Black slacks, cream blouse, hair pulled back in a neat bun. Nothing that would remind either of them of what happened yesterday. At 7:55, her phone buzzed. "The car is downstairs." Khloe grabbed her laptop bag and headed down. A sleek black Mercedes waited at the curb, driver already holding the door open. The back seat was empty except for a manila envelope with her name on it. Inside, a contract. She skimmed it quickly, her pulse accelerating with each line. 29th floor. He's expecting you. The elevator rose smoothly. Silently, Khloe watched the numbers climb and wondered if she was ascending toward her dreams or her destruction. The doors opened. James Glover stood waiting, perfectly composed in a charcoal suit, not a hair out of place, as if yesterday had never happened, as if he hadn't kissed her like he was drowning and she was air. "Miss Parker," he said coolly, "right on time. Let's begin." But as she walked past him into his office, she caught it, the slightest hitch in his breathing, the way his jaw tightened, the flash of something dark and hungry in his eyes before he locked it down. This was going to be the longest 2 weeks of her life. If you're hooked and want to see what happens next between Khloe and James, don't forget to subscribe to Urban Folks TV so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment below telling me what you think. Will Khloe survive 2 weeks working with James? Or will that kiss destroy everything? And smash that like button if you're ready for this dangerous, addictive journey. Episode 2 drops soon, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.